Cool. Where do we start with the story of Able Orchestra? So this is Jess Fisher, everyone.
Hi.
Leaving the stage is our dear friend Zoe Pritchard-Tai. She's playing the composer. Also about to leave the stage is our very heavy metal guitarist Marshall. And she's left the stage, but my incredible wife Nikki on the push and conducting everyone. And she won't thank me for saying this, but this was mostly her idea. I'm just in D minor. That's all I did for this. That's the saddest of all keys, right? Cool. So, does it make sense what's happening? Do we need to just check in about the composers?
Yeah. So do you want me to do that?
Over to you. You're the composer expert.
Okay, so me and Zoe are playing composer, which is designed by the lovely DJ Music. Who's that
handsome man right there. Look at him.
And basically, me and Zoe kind of got in the studio one day with Chris and Nikki, and we just started playing around with different sounds and different notes, and just kind of, especially for Zoe, it was Zoe's first time exploring composer, and that was really cool to see. And we just came up with the beautiful melody that you heard, and it was really nice just to kind of freestyle that. And I think for me as a musician, I'm very used to I'm playing this note at this time and I've got to have so many bars. So it was nice to have a more freestyle approach, and it was great that Zoe could join in on that. So yeah, that was where me and Zoe kind of went to.
Yeah, it was really cool. Let's rewind, because all of this takes place long before. Able Orchestra started in...
Well, I believe Able Orchestra started originally in Portland College. I believe it was originally called the iPad Orchestra. And then I was at Founding School, and that's when the lovely Inspire Arts appeared. And then we started what is now known as the Able Orchestra. And originally we started off performing at the Palace Theatre, and then some of you might remember we went to the BBC Proms in 2016, and we performed an amazing piece there. And then from there, we've just kind of gone on to do amazing projects. The last one before this one was the Emerging Project, and I don't think Si will mind me saying, but out of Able Orchestra came composer, and it's amazing. Go talk to Si if you haven't.
You should do that. You really should.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the Able Orchestra journey. And here we are now in 2024 with kind of
I had to think about that as well.
New identity.
Yeah. So Nikki and I came on board. We are lead artists and mentors. And there was a bit of a change around about a year ago in terms of how Able Orchestra is run. Obviously, our dear friend John is no longer with us. So Nikki and I came on board, and it felt like time to sort of refresh musically what Able Orchestra is about.
Yeah.
And there was a really clear appetite from you guys, as in the musicians, to do something different, to do something more exploratory. Nikki and I, come from a world of a lot of sort of genre bending, of kind of orchestral flavours meeting modern metal flavours and kind of things. And this was really the first piece that's sort of born out of everyone having their clear... Yeah. This is what they do really well. Like obviously Marshall brought that really heavy guitar game. You're playing the composer in quite a different way, actually, to how you normally do, right?
Yeah. I think it's worth saying as well, I think this piece, you'll notice on the video, I think we can all agree, some of the members couldn't sadly be here today, but I think all of us combined would agree that this piece represents all our personalities. Like, I don't think you have to know us to know that this piece represents who we are as individuals. Absolutely. And I think that's a really powerful statement.
So Curtis, thank you. Yeah, let's have that applause for our friends Curtis and Adrienne. who aren't with us today, they are
Yes.
part of Able Orchestra. They weren't part of this performance, but their music and their visuals are really clearly represented. Another shameless wife plug, Nikki did an incredible job making a film that I think actually like reflects. That's the thing you all say, is you see yourselves in the video, which I think is really powerful. And that video came from a complex discussion about whether or not people wanted to be seen in the video themselves as performers, and there's a lot of complexity around disabled identity and how we see ourselves. So the decision was made that if not everyone is happy being in the video, then no one's going to be in the video, and we're going to make something much more abstract and reflective of who everyone is. And so everyone's kind of in there, and there's a lot of musical elements that happened that were created by our friends Curtis and Adrienne that have been represented through the wonder of this pile of technology here and Nikki's skills in bringing all that together. And then we've played our composers, and I played a traditional instrument in front of you lot, like without the gloves on. That feels very weird. Back to the gloves next year. Bridget will be with you shortly, but is it now an appropriate time to suggest some sort of Q&A? Is anyone very curious about what is happening here? Jess and I are just going to waffle on about what we do, because we're very good at waffling on about what we do.
I think one good thing to mention is when we first got in the studio, because it's good to paint a picture of, because of everyone's schedules and access needs, we were all having various points with Chris and Nikki at different times, different places. And I think at one point, I didn't think Nikki will mind me saying, but it was sort of the head scratch of me and Zoe have got this beautiful, calm piece, and then Curtis, Adrienne, and Marshall are a lot more heavier, and it's like, how is this gonna work? Like, how?
Yeah.
Like, it was, and then all of a sudden, there was this mic drop moment of, okay, yeah, Nikki's like, yeah, this is how it's gonna work. And I think, I will say this probably for me was the, oh yeah, this piece is basically for me, Able Orchestra is back. And I think this piece highlights the talent in Able Orchestra. And I'm saying that as someone in Able Orchestra.
And so you should.
But I think it really does highlight the power of music and highlight that disabled people are talented musicians, and we are talented musicians. And I would say the amount of work that has gone into this piece, it's very powerful.
I completely agree. Cool. Did we have any questions? There's a lot there. That's also a you question, darling. There's a lot of logistics, isn't there, that people don't... Can we talk about what happened a couple of days ago? Yeah. Is that all right? Can you share that?
So we, as part of Able Orchestra, we were doing delivery in a school in Nottinghamshire, Mansfield Way, and I couldn't attend because my powered wheelchair, aka my legs, had decided to break. Like, fully break, not movable. And this is the only way I have to get around. So you best believe I was shouting at a lot of people. But it's things like that that people don't always consider. It's, yeah, we can get the composers, we can make the music. But there's also the logistics of when you're working with disabled people, especially physical disabled people, you can wake up one morning and suddenly the very thing that you rely on lets you down. So in that instance, I had to kind of ring Chris and go, hey, so you know that thing we've been rehearsing? Yeah, I'm not coming. And there's nothing I can do about it. So I think it's remembering about those physical barriers as well as just the musical barriers sometimes. But I think something that we've talked heavily on as Able Orchestra, and Chris, feel free to chime in, is making sure you're aware of what the social model of disability is and making sure you're implementing that as much as possible. Because it meant in those situations where I'm like, I'm physically stuck, I can't do anything, it meant I felt open enough to have that conversation with Chris and go, hey, I'm really sorry, but this is not happening today. And then they were able to work around that. Because I think oftentimes we just think we've got to get people making music, but there's bigger barriers and there's a lot of barriers. But I think just being open to have those honest conversations about, as well as the music barriers, what could also be those physical barriers.
That's a really amazing thing for you to say, actually, because I do think that is the secret to it. Because all the tech in the music tech can be very clever, but if people can't get into the room, and more importantly, not just the physical barriers of people getting into the room, but just like the real identity stuff of allowing people feeling they're allowed to take up space as disabled people becomes what it's really about, I think. And hopefully we've created the conditions for that to happen. Hopefully Nikki and I and Inspire Youth Arts, we're really rooting for everyone, and we understand the complexity of how these things are. One of our members isn't here today because they just don't feel quite, there's a lot of identity stuff about them appearing on a stage, and we're still in a process with them, but it's really complicated. I don't think people, it's really hard to articulate. I've been performing in this space for about 10 years now, but there was a time when no amount of money or anything could have got me on a stage because I was so fearful of my own sort of identity and how I'd be perceived as a disabled musician. It's really easy for me to say that after years of doing this, but it's really difficult to get onto that kind of those first kind of moments on stage. It's really hard.
I think also the biggest misconception for yourselves about disability is that we live in a society where, oh, you can't ask that, or no, that's not politically correct. But you know what? Just come and talk to us, because I would rather someone ask me a question and risk offending me than someone tiptoeing around me because they don't know the right thing to say. So sometimes it's better just to say what you're thinking and open the conversation than feel like I'm just going to do something that's going to cause a bigger access barrier because I daren't start up a conversation.
That's so real, isn't it? The barrier isn't so much about we'd rather people try and get it wrong than just ignore us for fear of getting it wrong, wouldn't we? That's, you can just, that now, there's nothing more to add. Right. Bridget will be with you in a moment. Oh, there's one more question. Oh, can we? Yeah, real quick. This is nothing clever. It's a keyboard. I'm just playing the keyboard. I don't really play the keyboard. Most people know me for playing the Mimi Gloves, but I had a go. It was fine.
I'm on the Composer, which is a MIDI controller. So I've actually turned it off to save battery, so apologies, guys. But you've got your buttons at the top, which has your chords, inversions, all that fun stuff. And then the joystick itself is your scale. So for that piece, I was in C major. So you just go round each note. So you've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then your other C. And yeah, you can just play it like typical piano, basically, or whatever sound you desire. And for this piece, I was on strings.
So all those string sections were you, the beautiful twinkly kind of thing that's happening over the top is Zoe also playing a composer. I'm aware of time, that's why I'm talking so fast. Nikki was playing the Ableton Push. Most people in this world are familiar with Ableton Pushes. That was creating the bits that we weren't creating. Marshall played a very heavy metal guitar sound. That's about it. That's what we did. We've been Able Orchestra, Your Music Mark 2024. We're going to go now. Thank you. Over to Bridget. Thanks so much.